Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading a Dazai Listener by me. So let's get into it. Dazai never expected you to be so forward, especially with how shy you could be with him sometimes. It was an adorable trait of yours, and at times it was what made him wake up in the morning. Really, it was that special, because he was not someone who was actually eager to see another day. But you were right there changing that, just by being alive and perhaps being teased by him on the daily. To you, it was a worthy sacrifice, and to him it was daily entertainment. And thus your life would go on, but he never expected you to try and do something bold for once. It was a cute attempt, he must admit, and sure, it was not enough for him to be embarrassed by it, but he thought it was a very endearing one. But today you had a surprise for him. You wouldn't shy away any longer. And in fact, you were going to surprise him. Yes, you were going to catch him completely off guard and then he won't know how to respond. You were going to try and call him daddy. Now, you were quite sure that he wouldn't even know what that meant. And if that was the case, then it would be funny to watch. But if it's not, then you would be getting an interesting reaction. So it seemed like in both cases, there was no loss, and you would certainly be getting something in return, one way or another. So that's why you were rather excited when you went over to him and wrapped your arms around his waist. "I miss you, baby," he told him, and he smiled softly at you, wrapping an arm around you and pulling you closer. "I know you do. I can be quite difficult to resist. Isn't that so?" "Well, maybe that's the case. And maybe there are other things that you haven't accounted for." "And what are they, my darling sweetheart?" "Well, maybe because you're so charming and so beautiful." "That just proves my point, doesn't it?" he said, smirking a little bit at how you seemed to struggle with what you're about to say. He had no doubt that you had a plan in mind, because you don't usually act so sweet and so adorable. And although it was quite cute to see you embarrassed, you were usually defensive and would pout so easily whenever I tried teasing you. So he was waiting rather eagerly for whatever you were trying to say. So after the two of you sat together and started cuddling for a little bit, you kept his face in your hands, leaning up to look at him. "Dazai, you're quite the daddy material," you say, and he looks at you for a moment, his eyes wide. "I'm quite what?" "You know what I said. I said, you're quite the daddy material. You know what that is, don't you?"
"Oh, I surely know. I mean, I wasn't sure about that. I wouldn't be too sure. But if you want me to try, I can be that for you,"
he says, smirking. And that's when your heart stutters. You should have been ready for something like that. Dazai was not one to back away from a challenge, especially not one that you're presenting him, because he loves seeing the shock in your eyes whenever he does something you don't expect. And maybe you should have expected this, because now he's winning, once again. It's almost like it's impossible for him to lose. And maybe you should actually make peace with that, because at that point, helping to win against him, or just to challenge him in any way, seems to be really pointless. So as you're pouting about how he seems to laugh at you, and how embarrassed you are, he cups your face in his hands gently, and kisses you, and suddenly whatever train of thought you were having is completely wiped away as he deepens the kiss, his eyes staring into your own boldly before the two of you lose yourself in the moment as you pull him closer, unable to resist him. He was laughing a little bit at how irresistible he was just a couple moments ago, and you denied it. But right now, in the heat of the moment, you can't help but admit that he's completely right. You cannot resist him. You cannot do anything when he's here by your side. And when the two of you are finally breathless and pull away, he looks at you with a soft smile on his face. And you're blushing, your face so red, it would be laughable if not for the tender moment that the two of you were having. You know, Mayan, if I could freeze this moment in time, I would. Because I always want to see you like this. Like this? What do you mean? You ask, still out of breath from what you were doing earlier. And he smiles, pulling you even closer. I like seeing you become a complete mess just because of me, he says. And then he's wrapping an arm around your waist, taking you with him, and walking towards the couch. You expect things to be more intense, but then it's quite tender, really, and surprising, but in a good way. When he wraps his arms around you, pulls you into his lap, for nothing more than just to cuddle you. The two of you always had the time to do more than that, but at this moment, Dazai wanted to do nothing more than to appreciate you. He may have always considered himself someone cursed, and someone who had no purpose for living, someone who didn't deserve the life that he got. But ever since you came along, a lot of things changed about him and the way he perceived the world. The first day he met you, he asked you if you wanted to die with him because he wanted to die with a beautiful woman. But right now, he wants you to live with him. He wants to wake up every morning with you in his arms, to see another day, more of your smiles, and hear more of your laughter, and know that there will be certainly more to come.